example, maybe, I said maybe an example of when the doctor gives us a clean bill of health, it doesn't mean it's clean. It means that he does not have the glasses to see what's wrong.
She need glasses.
That's true.
You know that. She always like that.
Okay. So, you have somebody here taking care of you. So, now, it doesn't mean what we see mean it's a death sentence. Number one, though, I'm not going to tell you this evening that you have cancer, diabetes, or high blood pressure. I don't know. Even when it looks bad. I will only tell you that something is in the making. What it is, I can't tell you because I don't use crystal ball because they are useless. Alright? But one thing I can tell you, when I see the blood looking like this or worse, I can tell you trouble is brewing. You see, you don't have to see it start raining, but as you see it gets cloudy, you know something is wrong. The doctor sees cloudy and he said everything is fine. I said no, he has to see it raining before he tells you, well, get inside. I said no, take up those clothes off the line because it's going to rain. Why? Because I see it get very cloudy, right? So when it's like this, it's because it gets very cloudy and something bad is going to happen, right? However, we can change it. What the Lord said, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn. That means now, right, we go on the 30-day fast that I will tell you about, right? And that you can also encourage your church to be on. Because I tell you, my wife and I went on it. It did us world of good. I remember this one lady went on it. She was weighing 188 pounds. She lost 22 pounds in 30 days. She was on 3 medication for diabetes, right? She was off with only 1 kidney, even though she had only 1 kidney, including the metformin. And she said, Dr. Morgan, I'm getting blood sugar reading below 100.
Wow.
No more medication.
Wow.
No, it did not come by wishful thinking. It came by the fact that she was willing to go raw and take the intestinal cleanse and the different things I put her on, the weight loss one and so on, for the first 30 days. Right? And remain, right, doing the good things. So what we're going to see, as Malcolm looks at this, right, any one of us, if we are not doing the right thing, right, could be off. Last week I saw one lady, and the lady, I can't call her name, she was 73. To be honest with you, she looked like she was 103.
Wow.
She was diabetic, hypertensive, but that wasn't it. When I looked at her blood work, everything was just a glob. Her red blood cells. I didn't even see any white blood cells that easily. Right? Everything was, at least this has space. As bad as this is, which is like, again, I said, nothing compared to some. Hers was the worst. But when you look in her face, you could see. I could easily look at her and say, you're stressed out. Even without seeing her face, I could tell. Sometimes I can say to folks, you're under a lot of stress. And they say, Dr. Morgan, how you know? I say, I'm seeing it in your blood work here. Why? Because if the red blood cells are not like this, being able to transport the oxygen, then you're under a lot of stress on the inside, which eventually throws on the outside. Don't believe it's the husband that's doing it or the wife. It's the inside that's doing it. You said, what do I mean? You can have the worst partner in your marriage, and yet you're smiling on the outside because inside is so good. It's like this. And you can have the most loving husband or spouse or wife, and yet on the outside you're looking stressed out because, right? Sorry, on the outside you're smiling because inside is looking like that. So really stress has more to do with the condition of our blood is in than outside environment. But we keep focusing on the outside. The outside is not the problem so much. It's the inside. You can get rid of the dog, the cat, and sometimes even the neighbor. Not poisoning the neighbor now, by moving out of the area. But one thing you do, you can't get rid of the spouse. Because the Lord said, I hate divorce, right? Yes. See? So what we have to do, change the inside. And you can get rid of the children when they are 18, 21, or whatever. Right? And by the way, I tell mine that there's a place called foster home, which I'm not afraid of. And I'm dead serious. You're 16 and you don't want to play by the rules, there's foster parenting out there. And honestly. Ready? I didn't mean if he's ready for foster home. good kid. Right? Yes, but yes, we have to sometimes change our environment. But first, the inside should be changed, right? Not the outside. You can just tell me when you're ready, and you can just go ahead and put it on.
No, it's not.
Okay, so we are holding our breath, right? And we want to see what's there. Now, sometimes we see the red blood cells come together, and it's just primarily a matter of dehydration. All right, and so all the person needs is some water, right? So whatever Malcolm sees, he's going to explain, and if I see it need to, that's my pathologist. Right? Whatever he sees, he's going to come forward now and explain what's there, and if I see the need to throw in something after, I will do so. All right, Malcolm? It's your turn.
Jesus.
Are you still alive?
I'm telling you, I'm dying.
What did I tell you? Doctor diagnosed nothing.
Come together. I'm dying.
Okay, Malcolm, take it over. What do you need?
Dehydration.
Do you need this too?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Malcolm.
Now, question: would you consider this a good example of blood?
No.
Would you? Okay. Well, I'll start off with. I will start off with the white blood cells. That right there is a white blood cell. That's a white blood cell. That's a white blood cell. As you know, that there are several types of white blood cells. White blood cells are responsible for a great portion of the work that your immune system does. That right there is called a neutrophil, is the most popular type of white blood cell. You have leukocytes as well. There's supposed to be roughly one neutrophil to every 600 red blood cells. Meaning there's supposed to be one of these to every 600 of these. Now, the white blood cells play a good role in our body. They help us ward off diseases, and they also help kill parasites. As you know, we cannot avoid parasites completely. Maybe you ate an apple this morning that was flown in from California where a fly pitched on it, and you just ate the egg, and now the parasite is burrowing away in your body. You cannot avoid them completely, but you can try to maintain a good level of parasites. It would be this, you can think of it in terms of mold. If you were actually to call the mold inspector, he will tell you that he cannot get rid of 100% of the mold in your house. The most he can do is get rid of the visible mold and try to reduce the level of microbes floating within the air so that it doesn't form again. Same thing with our bodies. The most we can try and do is maintain a good, which is a low level of parasites, so that it doesn't override our immune system and cause us to become sick. How do we know if our body is keeping the parasitic level low? Well, we can look at the condition of the white blood cells. Let me try and focus this again. Now, the white blood cells are supposed to be perfectly round like the red blood cells. That right there is one red blood cell that's laid like vertically on the slide, horizontally. That right there is a white blood cell. They're supposed to be perfectly round, and the thing is that the maximum amount of parasites a white blood cell can kill before it actually kills itself is 14. And after it fights and does all of its work and has killed 14 parasites, it essentially disintegrates. It fragmentates in your blood, and your body collects it and tries to get it out through one of your elementary organs, which the largest is your skin. That's why actually if you pop a pimple and you see the white stuff come out, those are dead white blood cells your body's trying to get rid of. So after they work and they die, they've killed 14 parasites, your body gets rid of them. The white blood cells are not supposed to overwork themselves. Once your white blood cells start overworking themselves, you become more susceptible to various, if not any type of disease. How do you know if they're overworking themselves? Well, you can tell if they're perfectly round. This thing keeps going down to focus. But as you could see before, that one is most definitely not in the worst condition I've seen, but it could be better. Now, I'm pretty sure that several of you have went to your doctor and asked them about your white blood cell count. Maybe for a lot of you, the doctor said that your white blood cell count is low. Maybe for some of you, he said it's high. I have to say, that is rather irrelevant to most individuals. And why look you like, well, shouldn't we have more white blood cells? The more that we have is better. Well, for example, there was this one man, I did his blood cell analysis, and throughout the entire analysis, I only saw 3 white blood cells, 3 neutrophils, that's all. And he said, well, his doctor said that yes, he has a very, very low white blood cell count, but he said he never really got sick. But when I looked at his white blood cells, they were roughly 8 times the size of this one. They were roughly 8 times the size. They were perfectly round and in perfect condition. Meaning the few that he had, his body was using them effectively. While other people, I will see a bunch of white blood cells in their blood, but they look torn apart. And you know, once they look like that, your body is not being able to use the white blood cells properly, and you really need to work on the level of parasites within your bloodstream. Now let me turn your attention to the red blood cells. These right here are red blood cells. Would you consider them in good condition? No. The red blood cells are not supposed to be vertically on the slide. They're supposed to be flat. They're supposed to be like this one, not like these all stacked together. Well, you may ask, well, why is that? We can think of this. We can think of this entire scenario just from the air that we breathe. Now, the air that we breathe is roughly 78% nitrogen. The majority of the air that we breathe is nitrogen, N2. 21% oxygen. Unfortunately, our bodies cannot use the nitrogen in the air. Our body just doesn't care about it. It's useless to us. We can't use it at all. But that 21% oxygen in the air, it's imperative to just about every single function of the body. You may ask, well, why is that? Well, one thing that we need to remember is that the average human being can go about 6 weeks without food, maybe 3 days without water, but most of us can't go 3 minutes without air. Fortunately, I can, but I'm not natural. Anyways, let's go on. He's like his father. Now, these red blood cells, why do they need oxygen so much? Well, we need to think about our bodies as a giant chemical reactor. Just like how you have your car out there, you pour octane, C18, H18, into your car, it combusts, produces carbon dioxide. Whenever bonds are broken between molecules, energy is released. It's thermodynamics. Can't really go wrong with it. It expands, your car goes forward. How our bodies use the food that we eat, it does it in nearly the same way. Didn't I say how your car pushes out carbon dioxide? What do you breathe out? Carbon dioxide. And we'll see how that's going to work. Now, the majority of the food that you eat gets broken down into one simple molecule. Does anyone know what that is? Glucose. I heard it. Glucose has a molecular formula, C6H12O6. All you need to remember from that is that there's a 1-to-1 ratio between the carbon and the oxygen. So don't worry about the molecular formula. All you need to worry about is that it has a 1-to-1 ratio between the carbon and the oxygen within the molecule. As I said, when you raise up your foot, that's a chemical reaction taking place. You stretch out your hand, that's a chemical reaction taking place. Say outside was chilly, maybe about 20 degrees, like how it was in Brooklyn a few weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
As soon as I stepped outside, I was stepping on ice. And as soon as I put foot outside, my body instantly sensed that the temperature had dropped. It instantly starts burning more glucose, breaking bonds between molecules, and heating my system so that I do not freeze. And it's exactly how your body works whenever you hit a colder environment. That's how your body stretches out its arms. That's how you think. That's how your pump heart beats. Our bodies use molecules to create energy. Now, glucose, remember when I said it has a 1-to-1 ratio between the carbon and the oxygen? Now we breathe out what? Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide has a ratio of 1-to-2. So what am I essentially trying to say? No matter how good you eat, or matter how much you eat, if your body cannot get that 21% oxygen, it cannot do a single thing with the food that you eat. Because a molecule with a 1-to-1 ratio, how does it get broken down into another molecule with a 1-to-2 ratio? It simply can't. Your body needs oxygen to run, it needs oxygen to heat itself, it needs oxygen to stretch out your arms. That's how we live. Our bodies are giant chemical reactors. Now, what does that still have to do with the blood? You're probably asking me. Well, one thing that we need to remember is that the red blood cells actually carry oxygen on their membranes, meaning around the cell. The more surface area a red blood cell has is the more oxygen it can transport. It gets help with a few other organs, and when it makes its way to your lungs, it transports the oxygen to the various components of your body. Now, if you see my hands how they are now, they have a lot of surface area. On their back, they have a lot of surface area. If I were to clasp them together, what happens? I have depleted their surface area. I have more than decimated their surface area. More than 50%. That's exactly what happens with your red blood cells. When they are so close together, they reduce surface area, and it depletes their efficiency to be able to transport oxygen throughout your body. So what does that have to go back with what I just said? Oh yeah, if you do not have oxygen, how do you raise your arm? How does your body heat itself? You can't do a thing without oxygen. Well, you're like, well, what can that really, a few other things that can cause in my body? Well, one other thing that this can cause in your body is that we need to remember, just how the blood is flowing underneath the slide, that's essentially how it's going to flow in your body. You see these long chains that look like these giant hydrocarbon chains that would probably burn in some type of diesel engine. That is essentially how the blood is going to flow in your body. Now, it really may not have a problem when it flows through the larger arteries, like your jugular vein, or the ones that flow through your wrists. But when they come to this tiny little areas, like your capillaries, the ones that flow in your eyes, the one that goes to your fingernails, if there's a blockage there, what happens? Those are problems. You do not want a blockage within, especially your capillaries. If there's a blockage that happens in the capillary in your eye, that is blindness. So what could cause this? Well, there could be several factors actually to the promotion of sticky platelets within your bloodstream. One could be dehydration. I have to say, there was one day I was actually doing my schoolwork, finished my schoolwork for the day. I was hungry, so instead of drinking my water, within 30 minutes, then go and eat, I went and I ate my food first. That wasn't a good idea. After I ate my food, I went to my room and took a blood sample. It wasn't exactly looking like this, but the platelets were still sticking together. It was not looking good. So I was like, oh no, this isn't good at all. So I went, I drank 10 ounces of water, I did 10 push-ups, I did 10 curls, and I waited 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, not a single cell was on top of each other.
Wow.
I could even show you the pictures, but unfortunately it's not a good situation right now. Not a single cell was on top of each other. So for me, it was dehydration. That was the only factor that was playing a role. But there was this one assistant pastor that actually did a blood cell analysis for. It was this church somewhere in Florida. And I did his analysis, and his blood was looking worse than this. So he was like, that's not good. And I was like, yes, pastor, that's not good at all. So he said, I'm going to go and do my regular Sunday workout routine. It's going to take me about 2 hours, and after 2 hours, I will come back. I'll try to drink 32 ounces of water, and let's do this again. So I was like, sure. So after he came back, that was after I was done with everyone else, he does analysis again. It was slightly better, but it wasn't much better to say the least. So he was like, why isn't my blood looking better? I was like, well, pastor, with me, it was only dehydration that was taking a role. But with you, there were several other factors. One of these factors could be processed food. Well, it actually goes a little bit deeper than that. It's something called the potential of hydrogen of the blood, the pH. Has anyone ever heard that term? I'm sure most of you have, especially if you're health leaders. The pH of the blood. That stands for the potential of hydrogen. It stems from acid-base chemistry, but essentially what it means, if your blood is too acidic, that's not good. If your blood is too alkaline, that's not good either. If it is completely neutral, that's not good either. So where do you want your blood? Well, you want it just above the neutral state. That's about maybe 7.35 and maybe a little bit above, somewhere around there. The thing is that the blood loves to stick together in an acidic environment. The blood loves to stick together in an acidic environment. What promotes acidic environment? Well, once you start cooking food, especially fried food, that promotes the acidity of the blood. It encourages sticky platelets. Another thing that encourages sticky platelets is glucose, sugar within your bloodstream. Have you ever maybe put some sugar between your hand and maybe damp it a little bit and see how it sticks together? That is essentially what happens in your bloodstream as well. If there's too much sugar within your bloodstream, they're going to stick together as well. Now, unfortunately, since the blood was so close together, it was hard to see the membranes of several cells. There are these certain types of cells, they have spiky membranes. They are what you call actinocytes. Actinocytes, as I said, are cells with spiky membranes. And they are caused when there's an infiltration in the formation of the red and white blood cells. But of course, it affects the red blood cells mainly. The actinocytes, they have spiky membranes, and it depletes their efficiency to transport oxygen throughout your body. And as I said, once you start impeding the flow of oxygen throughout your body, you can have several other problems. One of these problems are, did you know that they actually use ozone? That poisonous gas, yes, the ozone layer. If you were to breathe it, you would die. Ozone, O3, not O2. O2 is what we breathe. Ozone is O3. They actually use ozone to treat cancer within your body. I'm wondering, well, why? Why would they use something that's poisonous in our body? Well, the thing is that oxygen kills diseases. If you were to take a blood sample with AIDS and put it out in the open air, it kills it. Even certain viruses, maybe like, of course, yeah, airborne viruses like tuberculosis and stuff, but the majority of viruses, they do not like oxygen. Oxygen kills them. And same thing within our bodies. Actually, if I ever feel as if there's something coming to my throat, in terms of like a cold or so, I will actually pour hydrogen peroxide in my ear, because hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. It undergoes a decomposition reaction, turns it into water, lets off oxygen, and it kills the virus.
Yeah.
Oxygen kills diseases. So what happens if there's an impedance in the flow of oxygen within our bodies? It's harder for our bodies to kill viruses. And one thing that we need to remember is that every single human body on the face of the earth produces thousands of cancer cells each and every day. How does our body kill these cancer cells? Well, oxygen helps kill cancer cells as well. What happens if your body cannot kill all those cancer cells that it's naturally producing? If there's a buildup in one area, cancerous tissue occurs. Cancerous tissue is contagious to other tissues, misfolded proteins. This is not a good state. Well, that's what we need to remember, is that if the blood flows like this, sure, I can exactly pinpoint what is the reason. I would have to look at your lifestyle, see what's happening. Well, that's what my dad would do, not me. And then he could show you where you need to correct. So as the Bible says, the life of the flesh is in the blood. Of course, as we take care of our bodies, hopefully we'll be able to see improvements.
Thank you, Malcolm. Now let me tell you a little secret about Malcolm. Malcolm is 16. At 13, he could not read the first verse in the Bible or any statement that you write. While he might have known the word in or God in the beginning, God, right? But he wouldn't know beginning, nor he wouldn't know created, and so he couldn't read it. But he's a homeschool child, and you know what they would have done to him in especially public school? Written him off. Would be thrown out unwritten. We can do the other one in the meantime. Right? At 13, he began to read. He built that computer, which was the second computer that he built.
Very good.
The first one he sold for $800 within a year of him beginning to read, because he's a computer specialist. He loves computers. I'm trying to see if he can transfer all that knowledge into medicine, right? The right way. So pray for him. Right? I want him to design, foods and whatever things, not design, but say what's in foods that really make them work. Because as you said, he knows chemistry. That's his favorite thing. Right? That is his passion. He can break things down. He knows chemistry so much and loves it that within a year of reading and writing, he makes his first hydrogen bomb by extracting hydrogen out of water to cause an explosion. That's it. And in 3 years, he did from grade 1 to grade 12. And now is registered to go to Valencia College. Good for you. The Lord is good. It wasn't Margaret and Horace who did that. It was God. Follow God's program, brethren. Right? This is a kid who no ounce of meat has ever come to his mouth. He said, how do you know? Not even grandma's house he has slept without us being there. The other day we went to his grandma's house, my mother. She said, listen, it's a Thanksgiving without any meat. She said, my oldest sister, which is the one that follows me, I'm the first child, wants to come and eat turkey, which she said it's once a year she eats turkey. But she said, no, this is a Pentecostal. My mother is not Adventist. You heard what she said? Better than us Adventist. She said, I told my daughter, no meat is cooking in my house. It's Thanksgiving. It's strictly vegetarian. She cooked the rice and beans, and we took all the other vegetarian stuff. Now, not no Melinda or Worthington stuff, right? My wife made and I made everything from scratch. And we had a ball. Right? Even our favorite sorrel wine we took, and she enjoyed it. I went there and I made her some ice cream, and we enjoyed it too. Right? No, what am I saying? Right? Is this that it can be done? Yeah. The Lord, what did Jehoshaphat say? 2 Chronicles 20:20.